Sagittarius 18, tiny children in sunbonnets. A bonnet protects us from the sun. A tiny child is very vulnerable. We have an image here of the need to acknowledge our own tininess, our own innocence, and the glaring power of all that is out there, all that is. The sun beats down upon the child and would cause the child serious injury if there was not protection. The energy of life beats down upon us, and we would be seriously harmed if we did not guard against energies that we cannot take on. The capacity we have for perception is vast. We are constantly bombarded with sensory input, sounds and images and feelings and opinions and demands and requests, and it comes at us in such a way as we can't cope. We simply cannot cope with it all. We're just tiny. The only entity that can cope with all of that is the absolute entity, God. We have to protect ourselves from overload, and we do that by creating boundaries. We defend ourselves in some way from the power of what we cannot assimilate. Now, of course, on one level, it's a house. We can't really cope with rain and wind and sun beating on us all of the time, so we first and foremost protect ourselves from the elements, and we wear clothes for the same reason, and so on. So that's the first level, the physical level. And a lot of people really need some help with that. They don't know how to cope with physical reality. There are pressures in life that are strong. I mean, most of us will want to eat every day, and so we need to deal with that need. If you can't deal with that need, you're in constant sorrow, constant anxiety. So this is a protection, getting yourself sorted out so that you can eat every day. And if you haven't dealt with that, then you didn't really ought to be dealing with anything else. As children, we're protected from the need to do that. We're given food by parents, we're given a home by our parents up to a certain age, and there may be a gentle easing out the door, or you may be kicked out of the door, or you may want to run out of the door when you get to 16 or 18 or whatever. But as soon as you actually enter adulthood, the first and foremost concentration that you have is to keep the wolf from the door. So we have to protect ourselves from those who would take from us what we need, or those forces in life that actually rob us of our survival possibilities, our well-being possibilities. They exist in the current age, in Western civilized society, very much so. The drug lords are a pretty good example of that, but the government's another one. And it's not only these physical questions that we have to concern ourselves with. We're bombarded with lies by the government and the marketing forces and others. And those lies actually rob us of the clarity of thinking that we need to sort out the truth strategy that we want to follow. We're told lies so that we can no longer understand the difference between lies and the truth. And that changes what happens inside the mind. We can't think clearly. So we make the wrong decisions and we find ourselves in harm's way, becoming slaves to the system. We have to protect ourselves from that. How do you protect yourself from the bombardment of advertising? Either you don't look at it, or you just don't read it, or you don't believe it, or whatever. You have to come up with a way to protect yourself from the lies of marketing and government agencies. It goes further. You have to protect yourself from those who would win your heart. without being willing to treat it properly. Flirting is an example, or a woman who's trying to seduce a man who has a lot of money, or a man who's trying to seduce a woman who has a lot of beauty, and neither of them really wanting to win that person's trust and deep loving affection and so on. In other words, casual relationships created out of cynicism and a need for sex and money and power and station and the wrong reasons. So you have to protect your heart as well as your mind. And you have to protect your spiritual nature too. You have to protect your soul. The forces that act on that level of soul are religious forces, and they're very powerful indeed. They also tell lies about what is true, mostly, and the possibility of untangling the lies and the confusion and the silliness of religious teachings, it takes a very clear mind to do that. Philosophers throughout the ages, the 100 biggest names in philosophy throughout the last 2,500, 3,000 years, they don't agree. None of them agree about the meaning of life or how to live. None of them. It's interesting, isn't it, that the most intelligent minds history has ever come up with, in the heads of men who've dedicated, mostly men, who've dedicated their lives to understanding it all, they don't agree. They don't agree about the nature of reality. And scientists today don't agree with each other. Most assuredly, they don't agree with the mystics. So, think about the implications of that. Whatever you're told is true. Whatever you're told to follow, it's not true. What I'm saying now isn't truth. It's James's opinion, isn't it? Don't follow it. If it triggers within you a realization that's yours, then follow that, sure. And that's what I hope I'm doing. I'm triggering a realization in you of what is your truth. Because you won't get it from anyone else. Most assuredly, you won't get it from any religion. They tell lies. I think the one that I found most pleasing in the absence of this is Buddhism. The approach to life is pretty clear-cut in Buddhism. Just don't go to too many extremes. You're going to suffer and be compassionate. Yeah, that's pretty good. And it's there within Christianity, it's there within Islam, it's there within all of them. But all of these teachings have been furthered by lesser beings with agendas. And it's changed. And a word said 2,000 years ago doesn't mean the same as that same word means today. Even the colours, if you say red to a Roman and red to a current day Englishman, it means something different. It's a different thing. Words do not pass the test of time. So you mustn't really give too much credence to Scripture either.